Disclaimer: this story explores mature emotional themes involving adult characters. It contains no explicit content. Viewer discretion is advised. I wasn't prepared for what happened that night, no father ever is. It started as a quiet Friday evening. My wife was out of town visiting her sister, and I was home alone when my stepdaughter, Emma, returned from college for the weekend. She brought along her friend, Zoe, someone I'd met briefly before but never really spoken to. At the time, I thought nothing of it. They were both 22, full of energy, chatting and laughing like girls do when they're free from exams and responsibilities. I'm 44, a graphic designer who works from home, usually buried in client revisions and coffee. I've always kept a respectful distance from Emma's world. She's my wife's daughter from a previous marriage, and while we've had our share of awkward silences, there's always been a quiet understanding between us. Mutual respect. Boundaries. Zoe, though, she had this bold energy. Confident. Playful. The kind that fills a room even when no one's looking at her. She wasn't inappropriate, just observant. Too observant. At dinner, she asked questions. About my work. My routines. My favorite music. Emma didn't seem to notice how long Zoe's gaze lingered, but I did. I told myself it was harmless. That I was overthinking it. But later that night, as I walked down the hallway toward my office, everything changed. I didn't hear her footsteps until she was right behind me. I turned, surprised, and that's when it happened. She kissed me. Quick, confident. Like she'd made up her mind and didn't care about the consequences. I froze. For a second, my mind went completely blank. Was this a mistake? A joke? My heart raced, my thoughts scrambled. I could still smell her perfume, citrus and something warm, like sandalwood, and I couldn't make sense of what just happened. Before I could say a word, she smiled and whispered, "Don't act like you didn't want that." Then she turned and disappeared into the guest room like nothing had happened. And now I'm standing in the hallway, breathless, stunned, and wondering what the hell I'm supposed to do next, because Emma just walked out of her room, and she definitely saw something. Emma stood frozen, her hand still on the doorknob. Her eyes darted from Zoe's retreating figure to me, and for a moment everything was terrifyingly silent. I opened my mouth to explain, but what exactly was I supposed to say? That her best friend just kissed her stepdad in the hallway? That I didn't kiss her back, even though I didn't move? Emma blinked slowly, her expression unreadable. What the hell was that? My throat tightened. Emma, I didn't, but the words came out thin, unconvincing. She didn't scream or cry. She just stared at me like I was someone she didn't recognize anymore. Then she turned around and walked back into her room, shutting the door softly. Not a slam, just a quiet click that somehow felt louder than anything else. I stood there, trying to breathe. My thoughts churned. I kept asking myself how we got here. Emma came into my life when she was 16. I wasn't trying to replace her father, God knows I couldn't, but I'd tried to be steady, patient. Over time, we found a rhythm. She trusted me. Enough to come home from college, enough to bring her friends. And now this. Zoe. I should have known there was more going on beneath her confident surface. I replayed our earlier conversations, how she laughed at my jokes, how she leaned in just a bit too close, how her eyes stayed on me when Emma wasn't looking. I ignored the signs. Or maybe I saw them and convinced myself they didn't mean anything. Now, the lines were blurred. My mind wouldn't stop racing. Was Zoe doing this to manipulate? To get a reaction? Was it a dare? Or something deeper? In the guest room, I heard muffled music start playing, Zoe pretending like nothing had happened. Meanwhile, behind Emma's door, silence. Cold, stifling silence. And me? I stood in that hallway for what felt like an hour, caught between guilt and disbelief, knowing one thing for certain: no matter how this played out, nothing would ever be the same. Especially not now, because my phone buzzed, and it was a message from Zoe. Zoe's message was short. "Hope I didn't freak you out." But I meant it. No emojis. Just words. Bold, unapologetic, and completely out of place in the context of what had just happened. I didn't respond. Instead, I sat alone in the kitchen, the hum of the refrigerator the only sound cutting through the thick silence of the house. I kept glancing down the hallway like I expected Emma to reappear. She didn't. Hours passed. I tried to work, but my mind wouldn't let me. What bothered me most wasn't just the kiss, it was the ripple effect. Zoe had tossed a match into a space I'd spent years carefully maintaining. A space where trust lived. Where boundaries mattered. At 2 a.m., I heard footsteps. It wasn't Zoe. It was Emma. She walked past the kitchen toward the back patio without looking at me. I followed quietly. Outside, the night air was cold. Emma sat on the porch swing, arms crossed, eyes locked on the dark yard. I sat a few feet away. "I don't even know who you are right now," she said, her voice low. "Did something happen between you and Zoe before tonight?" "No," I said quickly. "Emma, I swear." I didn't know she was thinking anything like that. She shook her head. "But you saw it. You felt it. Didn't you?" That question hit harder than I expected. Because the truth was, I did notice Zoe. Not in a romantic way, but I'd be lying if I said I hadn't felt the attention. It had flattered me. And that made me feel worse. "I didn't encourage it," I said quietly. "She doesn't do things on impulse," Emma muttered. "Not without a reason." I realized then, this wasn't just betrayal. This wasn't just a kiss. This was a fracture in the way Emma saw me, and maybe in the way she saw Zoe too. Their friendship went back years, childhood sleepovers, inside jokes, heartbreaks shared over late-night calls. And now Zoe had crossed a line that neither of us knew how to erase. The worst part? Zoe wasn't hiding. She was in the guest room laughing on a FaceTime call, acting like she hadn't just detonated something explosive. And I had no idea how to fix what she broke, or what I was becoming in the process. The next morning was worse than the night. I woke to the smell of coffee brewing, Zoe, already in the kitchen, humming like nothing had happened. She wore one of Emma's old hoodies, sleeves pushed up, barefoot, completely at ease. I walked in cautiously, still groggy, still dreading every second. "Morning," she said, handing me a mug like we were in some sitcom. I didn't take it. "We need to talk." She tilted her head. "About last night?" My jaw clenched. "You kissed me. In this house. While Emma was home. Do you understand what you've done?" She shrugged, sipping her own coffee. "I do. And I'm not sorry." Before I could respond, Emma walked in. Her eyes met mine for half a second, then shifted to Zoe. You could feel the tension spike like electricity. Zoe smiled at her like it was just another Saturday. "Did you sleep okay?" Zoe asked, too casually. Emma ignored the question. "Zoe, what are you doing?" Zoe blinked, as if surprised. What do you mean? Emma stepped forward. You kissed him. I saw it. And there it was. Spoken aloud. Real. Unforgiving. Zoe set her cup down and looked directly at Emma. So? It wasn't a crime. Emma's voice cracked. You're my best friend. Zoe didn't flinch. I was your best friend. But let's not pretend we haven't been growing apart. Growing apart doesn't mean you destroy my family, Emma shouted. Her face was flushed, her voice shaking with betrayal and confusion. You used to say he reminded you of your dad. Now you're, what, trying to seduce him? Zoe laughed once, bitter. Maybe I got tired of pretending everyone's okay. He listens. He sees things. Unlike you. That hit something deep. Emma stepped back like she'd been slapped. And I was frozen. Watching the two of them unravel, knowing I was at the center of it, knowing this wasn't just a misunderstanding anymore. This was damage. Real damage. I want you out, Emma said, voice barely above a whisper. Zoe's jaw tightened. Fine. She grabbed her phone, marched past us, and slammed the door to the guest room. Emma turned to me then, tears in her eyes. Why didn't you stop her? I didn't have an answer. I thought the worst had already happened. Emma wasn't speaking to me. Zoe was locked in the guest room. The house was steeped in tension so thick it felt like you could slice through it. I spent the rest of the day in my office, trying to keep my distance, trying to give Emma space. But by late afternoon, I heard a knock. Emma stood there, arms folded, jaw set. There's something you need to see. She held out her phone. I hesitated, then took it, and my heart sank. It was Zoe's Instagram. A private story. A short, grainy video taken from earlier this morning, when I was in the kitchen. It showed me walking in, confused and tired. The caption read, "He wants me. He just doesn't know it yet, winking face worse?" People had replied to it. Friends from their circle. Laughing emojis. Go off, Queen. Always knew he had a thing for you. Zoe had turned this into a game. Emma's voice trembled. She planned this. You were just part of whatever story she's telling online. It all came into focus, the questions, the flirty looks, the timing. Zoe wasn't impulsive. She was calculated. And now, she'd not only blown up our family, she was documenting it for attention. I'm calling Mom, Emma said. She needs to know. No, Emma, wait, I said, panic creeping in. Let me handle it first. But it was too late. She'd already sent the screenshots. 10 minutes later, my phone rang. It was my wife. I didn't answer. Upstairs, Zoe emerged with her bag slung over one shoulder. Guess I overstayed my welcome. But Emma stepped in front of her. You're sick. You think this is funny? Zoe didn't look ashamed. She looked victorious. You always hated when people looked at me instead of you. Now you know how it feels. And that's when it hit me, this wasn't about me. I was a pawn. This was about something far older, deeper, and darker between the two of them. A grudge. A buried betrayal. And I'd just been used to bring it to the surface. Zoe stood by the door, her bag slung casually over her shoulder, as if she hadn't just torn through the middle of our lives like a hurricane. Emma didn't move. She stood between Zoe and the exit, not with force, but with something heavier, years of pain, disappointment, and now, finally, clarity. I defended you for years, Emma said, her voice tight. Every time someone warned me that you were manipulative, I told them they didn't know you. I made excuses. You were my friend. My best friend. Zoe didn't look away. You were never mine. That line landed like a slap. Emma flinched, but she didn't break. I didn't kiss him, Zoe added flatly, to be with him. I kissed him to prove that I could. That was it. No remorse. No apology. Just power. I stepped in, finally. Zoe, whatever you're trying to prove, this isn't how you heal whatever happened between you and Emma. She looked at me, her expression unreadable. Oh, I'm not trying to heal anything. I'm just finally done pretending. Emma opened the door. Then go. Zoe hesitated just for a breath, and then walked out, the door shutting behind her with a soft but final click. Silence. Emma stood there for a long time, staring at the floor. I moved closer, but not too close. I knew trust didn't bounce back in a day. You didn't do anything wrong, she said quietly. But it still hurt, watching it. Seeing how easily she could twist everything. I should have seen it coming, I said. We both should have, she replied, a sad smile on her face. We sat in the kitchen for a long while. The house, once filled with tension, now felt oddly quiet. But it wasn't peace, it was the space that comes right after a storm, when you're still deciding what's salvageable. And then, my phone buzzed again. Not from Zoe. It was from an unknown number. A message. You don't know the whole story. I wasn't the only one playing a game. Emma read it over my shoulder. Her face turned pale. What the hell does that mean? I didn't know. But suddenly, it felt like Zoe wasn't the only one we should have been worried about. The message changed everything. For a moment, it felt like we'd escaped the storm, only to realize there was another one coming. But after days of silence, it all started to come into focus. Emma sat me down the next evening. I talked to Zoe's cousin. Apparently, this wasn't her first time stirring up something like this. Last summer, she nearly destroyed another family friend's marriage. She does it when she feels unseen, unloved. It was messed up, but it also gave us closure. Emma and I spent the next few weeks rebuilding, not just trust, but how we communicated. She told me how hard it had been growing up without a consistent male figure, and how much pressure she felt seeing her mom happy with someone new. I told her how much I respected her honesty, even when it hurt. We deleted Zoe's message, blocked the number, and moved on. Eventually, Emma's mom returned from her trip. We sat down, told her everything openly and calmly. She was shocked, but grateful we'd handled it together. As a family. And that's the real lesson. Sometimes, betrayal doesn't come from strangers. It comes from those closest to us, people we've laughed with, trusted, even loved. But healing starts when we stop hiding from the hard conversations and start protecting what truly matters. No more secrets. No more games. Just truth. Did you enjoy the story? What kind of stories would you like to hear next? Let me know in the comments.